Greetings folks! Today we are taking a look at 3 vintage mountain bikes, all Stumpjumpers. We have a 1983 Stumpjumper Sport, a 1984 Stumpjumper Sport, and a 1987 Stumpjumper in Danucci green. Let's take a look.
There's a fair bit of controversy when it comes to who actually invented what we call a mountain bike today, but there can be little doubt that Specialized, with their Stumpjumper, was the first company that succeeded commercially with popularizing the mountain bike and selling them in large numbers. While Tom Ritchie may have been the individual responsible for building and selling the first production mountain bike, Specialized was the first to succeed in making it a mass market proposition. In 1981, the first batch of 250 Stumpjumpers were ordered by Mike Signard and Tim Neenan, who at the time were the only 2 individuals that made up the fledgling Specialized company. Having the bikes built in Japan, the first 250 sold out quickly. So did the second batch of 250, and soon sales of the Stumpjumper and the mountain bike phenomenon would explode.
All right, this 1983 Stumpjumper, you push back to 1983 and what you're going to get is a lugged steel frame, which is not something you're going to see every day on a mountain bike. This one was made in Japan. And Rich, you think these were made by Miata, is that correct?
Yeah, I think they're made by Miata, yeah.
All right,
and,
we have some...
Look at this fork crown is really pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, you have the biplane fork crown.
And 83, these are the bull moose bars.
Bull moose bars. With the Shimano thumb shifters.
Yeah, pretty cool.
The Avocet Touring 1 saddle.
And what kind of components do we have on here? We have the Seguno AT crank, Suntour Mountec, and we have a Suntour front derailleur. And this was a Sport, so it had lower line components than the regular Stumpjumper of the time period.
These Sports sold for $4.99. And I think the regular Stumpjumper at the time was selling for $7 or $7.99.
Yeah, something. And this is the blue color for 83. Now, if you look at the serial number on this bike, it will be an M3, and the 82s have a 2. And this is the blue color that they had in 83. And then as we move to 84 here, they changed to this more metallic blue color.
Before we concentrate on the 84,
yeah,
the original first year was 82, correct?
No, 81 they introduced these.
Oh, 81.
Yeah, yeah.
And those bikes were not lugged. They were TIG welded.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 82s were just like this 83.
All right.
They were lugged, made by the same company. Yeah, this is the 84, and not only is it an 84, it is the smallest 17-inch frame that they made.
Whoops, that small Stumpjumper is actually a 16.5-inch frame and not a 17-inch frame.
And it has tiny 24-inch wheels on it. So it's kind of an oddball. And because of that, because it was for smaller riders, they used this golf ball. I don't know the golf ball. They call it a golf club stem, which they used this stem on the first year Stumpjumpers.
Still has the biplane fork.
Yeah, same fork crown, same lugged steel frame, same Seguno crank as the 83, and same front and rear derailleur as the 83 Sport. And again, the regular Stumpjumpers had higher line components. I love the lug work here.
All right, take a look at the 1987 in this fantastic Danucci green color.
That really looks 87, that color.
Yeah, and you can see there were a lot of changes that took place from 1984 to 1987. Big changes in the fork.
Yeah, it's a Unicrown.
Yeah,
correct?
we have a Unicrown fork, no longer the biplane fork. This is kind of interesting. You have quick releases on the wheels.
That's
when
true.
The earlier bikes, they did not use quick releases. They just used bolts. I guess they were afraid the quick releases might not hold.
This is still a cool stem. It's got the brake cable through the stem. And you get a very late 80s color here. And the graphics have changed also from the other bikes. And this is actually a stump jumper. This isn't the Stump Jumper Sport. So this is the higher line. It's got a Suntour XC rear derailleur on it.
TIG welded frame, much closer to a modern mountain bike. They made a lot of advancements there in a very few amount of years.
Yeah, the brakes, it's got the U brakes.
Oh, that's right.
Take a
Check
look.
out the U brake down there.
Yeah. These were a thing during that time period with a lot of different manufacturers.
You can clearly see here by the label on the 1983 Stumpjumper that it was manufactured in Japan with a similar label on the 1984. I can't find any hard data on the web, but what I have found points to the fact that these early Stumpies were likely manufactured by Miyata, with later production like this 1987, made after production had moved to Taiwan, possibly manufactured by Giant. It's cool to note that the label on the 1984 Stumpy shows that the bike was originally sold by the now defunct Velo Sport Bicycles in Berkeley, California, Peter Rich's well-known and well-loved shop, which was once responsible for importing the first Mossies into the United States back in the 1960s. When I spoke earlier about the wheels on the early Stumpjumpers being held on with bolts, I really meant to say nuts, and speaking of nuts, I guess there was a lot of concern that the front wheels would come out of the forks with all the rough riding that would be potentially inflicted on these bikes, as not only did they forego the quick release levers, which were already well established at the time, but they used a rather extreme form of a lawyer tab, which you can see here. And speaking of rough riding, I think it's about time to put these bikes through their paces.
Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can say what you want about these bikes. You can say they're old, you can say they're heavy, but they're still a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, and when these bikes were developed back in the early 80s, they were for like downhill races on Mount Tam and adventure biking, kind of less technical stuff than you would do today on a mountain bike.
Yeah, more along the lines of what a gravel bike would do.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing with them lately, and they're perfect for that.
Yeah, I just gotta say one of the advantages to these is that when you do get to the stuff that's a little bit more technical, you're going to be better off on something like this than you're going to be on a gravel bike.
Which sort of naturally brings us to a short discussion about these vintage mountain bikes versus modern gravel bikes. There are lots of folks that are throwing drop bars on these vintage mountain bikes and turning them into retro gravel bikes, which does make a certain amount of sense when you consider the fact that these bikes were designed basically for a tamer sort of off-road riding. Still, a modern gravel bike will have the advantage of lighter weight and a geometry tuned for faster riding. For me, it seems that if you're doing a lot of mixed terrain riding, lots of riding on the road, then onto some gravel, then back onto the road, then back onto some more off-road, you'd likely be better off with a dedicated modern gravel bike, mainly because it will perform much better on the road. If you're riding mainly off-road and like playing in some mildly technical areas on occasion, I can't see how one of these vintage, fully rigid, all-terrain bikes wouldn't fit the bill. Not to end on a bummer or anything, but the beautiful area that Rich and I were riding through in this video is the Rasmussen Park open space in Cameron Park, California. Unfortunately, this entire area has been slated for new home construction, so if you're close by, get out and enjoy its natural beauty while you still can. Riding home on one of these vintage bikes, I can't help but ponder the nature of change. The changes that have taken place over the years with bicycles, some bad, some good, the changes to the environment, and the open riding land that's been lost to construction, like the Rasmussen Park trails that will soon be a thing of the past. Hopefully someone is wise enough down the line to realize what's good about the past, embrace it, and make a real effort to preserve something that once lost may be very difficult to get back.